We have been discussing a lot of really important things regarding walking with God. Being just and fair. We have talked about being humble. We've talked about God is with us in the hard times. We've talked about feeding our spirits as well as our bodies. We talked about being generous, being freely giving to others from the things that God has given to us. We also talked about God's direction, that we should be choosing God's way, not our way. We also talked about wisdom. Godly wisdom is way more important than just getting our own way or being right all the time. What God sees is more important than what I see. So don't be all, about what you look like or things like that. Be more about who you are as a person, because that's very important. Here are our memory verses in random order. We're going to try and match everything. So, blessed are those who maintain justice, who constantly do what is right. Psalm 106, verse 3. The way to become wise is to honor the Lord. He gives sound judgment to all who obey his commands. He is to be praised forever. Psalm 111, verse 10. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will lift you up. James 4:10. A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. Proverbs 11, verse 25. Come near to God, and he will come near to you. James 4:8. Obey my voice, and I will be your God, and you will be my people. Walk in all the ways I command you, that it may go well with you. Jeremiah 7:23. Jesus replied, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never be hungry again. Whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. So I have emptied our remember tree of all of our supplies. And what we're going to do is we're going to see if we can match the right one to the right Bible verse. Okay. Everything is in a pile. Okay. So first thing I touch, the map. All right. Now I remember that, first of all, I'll give you a chance. What was the map supposed to tell me? Okay, that's all the chance you get. The map was supposed to tell me that choosing God's way was more important than choosing my way. Now, which memory verse did that go with? I think it was this one. I'm not going to tell you which one I did. Not yet. At the end, we'll see if I'm right. So you should be thinking, which verse did we use about choosing God's way is more important than choosing my way? All right, next supply. First thing I touch. That was the table. I'll try again. Oh, the binoculars. This one I remember very well because we had my mom come for the video. The binoculars were about God's justice. Which memory verse had to do with God's justice? Well, that's easy because the verse actually has the word justice in it. So I'm just going to put it, where is that one? Where is that one? There. Pretty sure it's that one. All right, are we ready? The compass. What was this one about? All right, that's all the time you get. The compass was about wisdom, right? Wisdom, how this will lead me. If I am lost, my compass will lead me in the right direction, just like God's wisdom will lead me into making wise choices if I trust in my godly wisdom. All right, which verse had to do with wisdom? Again, that's a really easy one because that one's not so hard. 4 more. What is that? Oh, the mirror. Now I remember the message for this. Oh, I grabbed the mirror and the match. But the match was just stuck on the back, so I won't worry about that. The mirror. This one was cool because it was what God sees is more important than what I see. It is more important than what anybody else sees. And no matter what, that God thinks I am cool. And God thinks you are cool. And that is way more important than what anybody else thinks is cool. Wow. Do you remember what verse went to this one? I do. All right. Nope, that's table. If I move my finger, I catch the match. Oh, this is our new one. Do you remember what this one is? God is with me even when times are hard. Just like my story about when I dropped my lighter in a puddle and I only had my flint and steel and my lighter and it was raining and I thought, why didn't I have waterproof matches? But now I do. So God is with me even when times are tough. And I am never walking alone, just like our story that I read about footprints. I remember which verse this goes with. That he is always with me. He never leaves me. He never abandons me. I won't say any more because I almost gave it away. Okay. Oh, trail mix. This was all about being generous, sharing, and how God is generous with us, and he gives us so many things, not just things that are tangible, not just things you can touch, like a house and a car and a yacht and a pony. God gives us things like time. He gives us nature. He gives us family. He gives us friends. He gives us all sorts of other things. When we are generous with what God gives to us, then we bless other people. And so being generous makes things better and yummier for everyone. This one is easy to match with the memory verse. Well, there's only one left. This one's actually also easy. So, our spiritual power food. We talked about how important it is to feed your spirit as well as your body. And and we talked about ways to feed your spirit. Praying, being quiet in the presence of God, worshiping. Remember all those things we talked about? Reading the Bible, memorizing scripture. Those are all ways to feed your spirit, to become spiritually healthy, spiritually strong. So this one is nice and easy. I remember because it went with the yummy lesson where I ate a lot of something that I won't tell you because it'll give it away. All right, go put it down.
So how did we do? I think we did pretty well. Here we go. All of our Bible verses are matched up with all of the things on our Remember tree. Good job, guys.
Week 7. Come near to God, and he will come near to you. When we studied this scripture, we talked about how God is with you in the hard times. And we looked at the story of Gideon, who was hiding in a wine vat, threshing the grain so that he could not be seen by the Midianites who were roaming the land and stealing. And he was greeted by an angel who greeted him as a valiant warrior, if you remember. Now that is because God knew the potential of Gideon, even though he thought he was a coward. He was from a small tribe in Israel. He was the smallest in his family, and he felt like he had the least to offer. And then God said, nope, you have potential you don't even know about. You are a strategist. And God saw that potential, and he pulled that potential from Gideon, and he used that potential to liberate the Israelites, which is totally awesome. So our reminder was our waterproof match. God is with me even when times are tough, and I have to believe that his plan is the best for me. And if I am prepared, I can make it through. A way to get prepared? Take care of your spirit. Another way to get prepared is to have strong faith that God is always with you. So I am going to hang our match back on our Remember tree. God is with me even when times are tough. James 4:8. Come near to God, and he will come near to you. Here we go. And I'm going to hang our memory verse. Now, you don't know about this. I'm going to show you something. We have a wall of Scripture. And I am going to hang our memory verse on the wall of Scripture, and I'll show it to you at the end. All right, here is another fun way to learn your scriptures. I have picked this one. James 4:8. Come near to God and he will come near to you. And this is what I'm going to do. My goal is to catch the ball every time I throw it. So I'm going to say a word and I'm going to catch the ball. If I miss the ball, I have to start again at the beginning of my memory verse. And I can't decide that I have won until I have caught the ball from the beginning to the end. Here we go. James 4:8. Come near to God, and he will come near, ooh, almost missed that one, to you. So that was a pretty short one. If you really want to challenge yourself, then you should try this one. Look at all those words. Oh my goodness. But you can do it. And if you make it now, I have no head. Let me back up a little bit. I have no head when I'm talking and you can't see me. So I'll be honest. Catching a ball is something I've done for a long, long time. So I'm pretty good at it. You might find that you make more mistakes than I did, and that's okay. Because the more times you do it, then the more times you get to go over the memory verse. If I were going to challenge myself, I'd do it at a basketball hoop, which I don't have. But if I had one, I'd set up a basketball hoop, and every time I got it in, then I would count that. Or, what's another thing you could do? Skipping. You have a skip rope. I have a skip rope. My skip rope is made for someone your height. So, watch. Look how short this is on me. Yeah, it's supposed to go here. But, you know what? I'll give it a try. I'll challenge myself. James 4:8. Now, okay. I'll tell you, I can't remember the last time I skipped rope, so I might be really bad at this. But let's see. All right. Come near to God, and he will come near to you. James 4:8. Actually, not bad. Not bad. Headless Meredith. Not bad. Week 6. John 6:35. Jesus replied, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never be hungry again. Whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. Now we talked about, does that mean that Christians never get hungry and Christians never get thirsty? And the answer was, of course not. Christians go through hard times just like non-Christians do. But we can take care of our spirit. We can make sure that we are spiritually healthy by talking to God, praying to God, learning about God, singing worship songs, reading our Bible, studying scripture. All those things feed our spirit. So our craft was to make a spiritual power bar with our favorite scriptures in it. If you missed that, it's super easy. Just take a bunch of scriptures that mean something to you and put them inside an envelope and label it spiritual power food. And then whenever you feel like you're struggling, pull it out, read those scriptures. Our Bible verse that went along with this was the story of the rich and the poor man. Do you remember that? How Lazarus, the poor man, died on the street, sick and starving. And the wealthy man died in a comfortable chair in his home. He was well fed and he had nice clothes. But the wealthy man went to hell and Lazarus went to heaven. And how in heaven there was no pain and no sickness. We're going to hang our spiritual power bar on our Remember tree. There we go. Feed your spirit. And we're going to hang our memory verse. John 6:35. Jesus replied, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never be hungry again. Whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. That's going on my scripture wall. Here is another fun way to memorize scripture if you like a lot of color. So I have John 6:35. Jesus replied, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never be hungry again. Whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. And so I start with a color. And I do, every time I see the first letter is a W, I'm going to circle the W and underline the word. So, Jesus replied, and another thing is I just keep saying the scripture again and again. So I start at the beginning. John 6:35. Jesus replied, I am the bread of life. Whoever, circle the W, underline the word, comes to me will, circle the W, underline the word, never be hungry again. Whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. All right, now, the next thing I do is I pick another letter and another color. I'm going to go with blue. So now, every time I see a letter that begins with a B, I'm going to go blue. John 6:35. Jesus replied, I am the bread, circle the letter, underline the word, of life. Whoever comes to me will never be, circle the letter, underline the word, hungry again. Whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. Okay, new color, green. All right, now, the next one will be anything that starts with an A. John 6:35. Jesus replied, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never be hungry again. Whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. Okay. How about anything that begins with a T? I will do brown. John 6:35. Jesus replied, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never be hungry again. Whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. Begins with a T. So I'm going to go with yellow for J. John 6:35. Jesus replied, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never be hungry again. Whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. How about red for M? John 6:35. Jesus replied, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never be hungry again. Whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. And one last color, pink. Let's try it again. Aha. John, and I'm going to be doing the N's because I have the word never twice here. John 6:35, Jesus replied, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never be hungry again. Whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. All right, and when I'm done, my memory verse looks like this. See that? And all that color will help me. But yeah, you can have some fun with color. If you don't want to circle and underline, you can color the whole word in, or just underline, or just circle it. It's up to you. Week 5, My Way or the Higher Way was the title of that. My Way or the Higher Way. And when we did this one, Jeremiah 7:23, Obey my voice and I will be your God and you will be my people. Walk in all the ways I command you, that it may go well with you. We talked about how going God's way, although sometimes it might not make sense to us, is always the best choice. And we did our map where we picked a spot in town that we really wanted to go to, and we drew a path, winding path through town to our favorite spot. Did any of you get to take that trip? Let me know. When we did this one, we talked about Jonah. Jonah was a man in the Bible who sometimes went God's way and sometimes went the exact opposite way, and how God was with him and encouraged him to follow the right path, and how God even explained his choices, which does not always happen. So we're going to hang our map on our remember tree to remind us to obey God and to follow his instructions and his directions, because God's way is better than our way. And our scripture, Jeremiah 7:23, Obey my voice, and I will be your God, and you will be my people. Walk in all the ways I command you, that it may go well with you. That's going on my scripture wall. Week 4, we talked about is something fair or unfair. Walking the fair way means walking God's way, and how even though it doesn't feel like it, God's way is always fair. And for that, we had our binoculars. And our scripture was Psalm 106:3. Blessed are those who maintain justice, who constantly do what is right. And we talked about 2 of the judges of Israel. One of them was Eli, who was a judge and a priest. And he had sons who were also priests, and they were sinning. And Eli did not know how to deal with that. He talked to his sons, but they didn't listen. And then he just stopped trying to solve the problem, and his sons kept sinning and hurting people. And we talked about King Solomon and how Solomon was also a judge of Israel, but he was a judge and a king. And people from all over the world, from far, far away, used to come to Solomon and ask him for advice, because it was known that the God of Solomon had given him wisdom. Even people who didn't follow the God of Solomon believed that the God of Solomon had given him wisdom. And so they would come to him and ask him for advice. But in the story we read, he was talking to two women who were not leaders in any way. And he was helping to solve the problem of who was the true mother of the baby. And we talked about how God's justice is always fair. And sometimes things don't feel fair, but that doesn't mean that they're not fair. We used our binoculars for this one. We talked about how binoculars take things that are far, far away and bring them close to our sight. Justice deals with everything, and fairness deals with everything. So I'm going to hang our binoculars on our Remember tree. Hang them on a thicker branch because they're heavy. And this poor tree has just been through so much with me. And our scripture verse, Psalm 106, verse 3, "Blessed are those who maintain justice, who constantly do what is right," is going on our scripture wall. Week 3, Psalm 111, verse 10. The way to become wise is to honor the Lord. He gives sound judgment to all who obey his commands. He is to be praised forever. So we did our compass. This week we talked about wisdom. Wise in whose eyes was the name of that chapter, and how being wise is not the same as being right. You can be right without using any wisdom at all. But wisdom is very special. And our scripture readings for that week, we did the story of Cain and Abel, the two brothers who brought an offering to the Lord, and how God was very pleased with Abel's offering, and he was not pleased with Cain's. And when he spoke to Cain about it, Cain got very angry and offended. And God gave him a chance to do what was right, and Cain did not take it. Then we talked about King Solomon, and he goes to bed at night after spending the whole day offering sacrifices to the Lord. And God says, "I'll give you anything. What would you like?" And Solomon says, "I want wisdom." And our Remember tree item was the compass. And the compass was to show us how you can use a compass to find your way when you are lost, and it'll take you to the right place. Just like we can use our godly wisdom to find the right decisions to make. So, our compass goes back on our tree. Where do we hang it now? Let's hang it here. There we go. God's wisdom is more important than being right. And our scripture, Psalm 111:10, "The way to become wise is to honor the Lord. He gives sound judgment to all who obey his commands. He is to be praised forever." On the wall. Psalm 111, 10. The way to become wise is to honor the Lord. He gives sound. Ooh, you missed that, but look at that. Judgment to, fumble. All right, well, I'm glad that happened because now I can show you, if you drop it, you have to start again. So I have to start again. Psalm 111, 10. The way to become wise is to honor the Lord. He gives sound judgment to all who obey his commands, who he is to be praised forever. Ta-da! Week 2. This was our week about God thinks I'm cool, and God's opinion of me is way more important than what other people think, and we had a mirror for that one. And this is the week where I taught you about Morse code and how you could use a flashlight and a mirror when you're in the wilderness, and you can signal to people that you need help. And if you know Morse code, you can actually signal words to people. Remember that? Our scripture verse for that week were the stories of Ananias and Sapphira, who were two people in the book of Acts who wanted to look cool. They had seen other people selling all their land, bringing the money to the disciples, and then just living with everybody. And the money that had come from the sale of their land was going to take care of everybody. And Ananias and Sapphira were two people who really wanted to feel like that. They wanted the people to believe that they were that cool. They said, we sold all our land, we brought all the money, and it was a lie. And as you remember, that ended very badly for them. But then we also talked about Daniel and how he and his friends had been taken and forced into service of the king. And all the other Israelites who had been taken were changing who they were so that they could fit in a little better. And Daniel and his friends didn't want to change who they were because the changes that they were being asked to make were changes that they felt would make God unhappy. So remember, it's sometimes very hard to do what you think is right. And you may stand out, you may feel a little bit uncomfortable, and you might not feel like that's the cool thing to do, but it really is. And who would you rather impress? Another human or God? So, what God thinks is way more important than what other people think. And God already thinks you're cool. And you want to do things that please God and make him proud of you. So our scripture, James 4:10, humble yourselves before the Lord and he will lift you up. So we're going to hang our mirror on our tree. Let's see here. And our scripture on our wall. Here is our very first one we did together as a group. And this one used Proverbs 11:25. A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. And this was our yummy lesson about the trail mix, where we had 13 different ingredients and we labeled each of them. We had time, we had money, we had transportation, something that you could give and share. And we made a very delicious trail mix. And I'm sorry it's gone because it was yummy. But our scripture verses for that week, we talked about Abraham and Lot, the uncle and nephew who traveled a long, long way to come to a new land. And when they got there, their families started to fight because they didn't want to share everything, or they felt like sometimes one person was taking more than their fair share. And Abraham didn't want to be in that kind of a relationship with his family. He wanted them to make God happy. So he let Lot choose what side, to the left or to the right. You pick, Lot, I'll take whatever's left. And he was very generous, and that pleased God. And Abraham was blessed because of that. And Lot, he looked at the two lands and he said, oh, I want the best one. I look over here and I see that not too far away there's a great big city. I look over here and I see that there's lots of water. I'm taking the best for me. And that did not please God, because that wasn't being generous, that was being selfish. And Lot actually had a very sad end to his life. Our other scripture was the scripture of Jesus. And a wealthy man comes to him and says, Jesus, what must I do to enter the kingdom of heaven? And Jesus says, you know what to do. Follow the commandments. Don't lie. Don't cheat. Obey your parents. All of those commandments. And love your neighbor as you would love yourself. And the wealthy man is so happy because he says, oh, I've done all that. I don't lie. I obey my parents. I love my neighbor. And Jesus says, great. Then there's only one more thing you need to do, and that is sell everything you have and give the money to the poor. And the wealthy man is very sad because he has a lot and he does not want to give it away. And he does not want to take care of his neighbor. He wants to take care of himself. And in that story, Jesus is not telling us to sell everything we have. But what he is saying is that Jesus could see that that man's wealth was more important to him than his neighbor, than the poor people in his town. And because God can see those things, then God knows when those things are too important. And he says you shouldn't have that because it is causing you to be selfish. So that was our story about being generous. So we're going to hang our yummy trail mix on our remember tree. Where? Oh, here's a good strong, because trail mix is a little heavy. We'll hang that there. And our verse, Proverbs 11:25, a generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. Goes on the wall. right. So The last time that I did this memory verse mix-up, I only had 5 verses. This time I have 7. But even though I have 2 more verses, I am going to try and do it faster than I did when I only had 5 verses. So, okay, I think they're all, and I didn't tell you this last time, but I left one of the lines on the other side of the room, so I had to go get it. When I was like, wait, there's another word here, I know there's, and I couldn't find it, then I had to go get it. But this time, I think I have them all. So, are you ready? On your marks, get set, go. Hang on. I have put, Jesus replied, I am the bread of life, twice. All right. That's all right. All right. Psalm 111:10. The way to become wise is to honor the Lord. He gives sound judgment to all who obey his commands. He is to be praised forever. John 6:35. Jesus replied, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never be hungry again. Whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. James 4:10. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will lift you up. Psalm 106:3. Blessed are those who maintain justice, who constantly do what is right. Jeremiah 7:23. Obey my voice, and I will be your God, and you will be my people. Walk in all the ways I command you, that it may go well with you. James 4:8. Come near to God, and he will come near to you. Proverbs 11:25. A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. How did I do?